Okay, so here are three fonts that are sort of concurrent with the time period, um, early 1800s, um, that might be useful for this logo project. This is Rockwell, which is a slab serif font. So prior to the 1800s, there were all there were serif fonts. There was no such thing as a sans serif font. One of the developments in the early 1800s was the development of the slab serif. Prior to this, serifs were kind of rounded. And as a matter of fact, let's do one more. Hopefully, I'll still have enough space to work with. So if I go to like Minion, bold. Okay, so that's a bold version of a old style serif font. Then we have a slab serif where they take the serifs, which were smaller and rounder, and heavies them up extensively like that. And then we have something called a Clarendon, which is a slab serif, only instead of a sharp 90-degree angle when the stroke hits the serif. The Clarendons took that slab serif idea, but then softened it a little by having a curve. And then this font here, which I sort of happened on, is it has a slab serif of sorts. The angle is actually angled in, which is kind of interesting. And then rather than having sort of a spur serif here, we've got a ball serif and we've got a ball serif there. And it's just got kind of a sort of friendly look to it, which I like. And it actually kind of looks like it's been done with a brush. So, um, first thing I would do with any of these when I'm starting to make a logo out of them is I would go to the character setting. Let's see if I can get this all over here where I need it to be. And for the kerning, I'm going to switch it over to optical, which I don't know if you just noticed, but just took the letters and more evenly spaced them. And it also tightened up the tracking. And I think on this one specifically, I'd want to tighten up the tracking even more. And there's actually a couple of odd places in the kerning. So sorry. Um, so now the thing is, these really aren't logos right now. It's really just the type is typed out in a row, and that doesn't really make for much of a logo. It's very wide. It wouldn't be very easy to deal with in most situations. We generally want something to be a little bit um, narrower. And so I'm going to take one of these. I'll take that one and bring it down here. And so kind of the first thing I would consider would be bringing it down on 2 lines. I'm going to tighten up the leading. I'm going to center it. And I might actually want to take this. I'm going to try this. Sky Meadows. Huh. Okay. So that could stand to be narrower. And I don't think, let me see just quickly. Well, I've got this font, which is a slab serif and is much narrower. And I'm going to set that to 0 and maybe like, except I think this font has been actually drawn a little bit too tight, but we'll deal with it this way for a moment. I think the problem is it might be okay if you use it really big, but we're getting a little bit close. So that font doesn't really work so well. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to go to this font, which you'll see is a little bit narrower. It's got a nice big X height. Center. Okay. And I probably, because Friends of is not as important as Sky Meadows, I'd probably bring that down. Do I have another weight? I do not have another weight. Well, let's try this then. I'm going to take this and see what happens if I do minion. Variable concept, italic. Is a little bit of a problem. That's still not too bad. And I could take this and make it now I'm running into problems with that. So what may need to happen is I take this and I'll make it all caps. that's still not quite working. Um, so but maybe I could do something like that, or maybe Shift Command left, and then I can space this out. Well, and if I did that, then I think I actually could make this italic because it'll actually fit. So that could be a sort of a type logo. And it's, you can see it's infinitely narrower here. We've also created some hierarchy because we no longer are treating all parts of this the same. Friends of has become less important than Sky Meadows, which is how it ought to be. Because clearly Friends of is not nearly as important as Sky Meadows. Okay, then let's try one more. We're going to take this and I'm going to break this onto 3 lines like this. Bring that down a little bit. And then I'm going to take these again. I'm going to make that and I'm going to take Sky. So oftentimes logos won't be this kind of crazy with that big a difference between Meadows and Sky. Centered it again. You'll notice that this type, normally the leading is going to be bigger, but when you're dealing with logos and just individual lines of type, you're going to probably be reducing this. And looks like I need to make Friends also all caps, or eh, some experimenting, which is what we do. Okay. And so this is much more logo-like. And I could take this. And so we've got a logo like this. Might be possible to add something to it. I also have this, which makes a maybe a much nicer logo. Something like that. Maybe it doesn't actually need those rules. Or maybe it needs the rules outside the box. So, and something like that could be a really nice logo. Could even take that. Let's see. Let's take and shove that off the side. don't have to all be the same size. So I can do that. Another possible way of doing it with some changes in fonts. And again, I guess I'm just going to move all of these off. And I have a logo that looks something like that. So I just hope that gives you some more ideas. Well, and this could also be Shift Command left. I'd need to and also flush it left. So I think in that case, it needs to be just a little bit smaller. And I know I'm not supposed to do this, but So another way of handling it. Okay, so I hope this gives you some ideas on how you could go about playing with type and the sorts of things that you could do with that type. And see you next class.